Welcome to Rock Talks. Today we're talking to Sergio Curvelo and Eduardo Paniagua from the Latin metal band Puya. We discuss their upcoming studio album Potencial, playing at Ozzfest 1999 with Slipknot, and the development of their unique sound. Hello Sergio, how are you, man? Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Rock Talks.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me here.
Doing great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. So tell me, Puya is back in business, like they say, with you on vocals. So my first question is, why did you decide to go back to the band? Because you were out for like 2 years, a year and a half maybe, without counting this pandemic year, right?
Yeah. I had some personal issues I had to work on, and so I wasn't able to be available the way the band needed. But you know, once things got resolved and everything, it's like, well, it's time to go back.
All right. And you are already working on a new studio album, right? Because you just released a single a few days ago.
I literally just got back from Puerto Rico yesterday. I finished the vocals on all the new tracks.
Oh, so what can you tell us about this new album? About the musical direction, about the singing?
I mean, on this album, the singing is very diverse. It's not exactly the same, but it's not so different. I don't know how to explain it. This is probably one of the most diverse albums we're gonna have, or that we have, and for me, it's just it just shows the breadth of the influences that Puya has.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some new influences on this new album.
I wouldn't say new influences. I'd say maybe there's definitely some going back to our roots with the influences that started that started us on our journey into metal. But it's definitely, you definitely can tell it's Puya, but it's still, I'd say, a little bit more evolved.
Exactly.
Than the sound has been thus far.
I was looking for that word, evolution, in a word, right? So I was listening to the Puya albums to do this interview. I was remembering all those great songs, because Puya was really something great back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s, heavy MTV rotation. And also you gained a slot on the Ozzfest 98, right?
Yes.
So what do you remember about that experience, because still today, Ozzfest is one of the main metal festivals around the world, but back then it was really big. It was like a big moment for any band to be there. So what do you remember about playing there? Second stage.
Oh man, I remember so much, dude. How many hours you got?
Go ahead, man. Go nuts.
There's a ton of stuff, man. That is an experience for a band, especially for a band, like, even though we weren't really young, but in the eyes of the fans, we were a new band, we were a young band. So it was an incredible experience. Just getting to play to those crowds, because in Ozzfest, all the bands, so that those who don't know, or those who are familiar, even, there's 2 stages. There's the main stage and the second stage. The second stage is for the up and coming bands, and then there's the headliner of the second stage is a well-established band, and then the main stage is for like the big acts, like the well-known acts. But the first slot on the main stage is a rotation. So in other words, the festival allows an up and coming band to actually play on the main stage to the larger audience of the main stage. It rotates. So, day one of the bands goes, day two, another band. So you're constantly rotating, which is really cool, because what happens is, you know, you may start really early on the second stage, you know, so, you know, it's not at capacity. There was always a good amount of people. It was always a pretty big size crowd. But the later you got into the set, the more people there were going to be, you know, and so it was great because it allowed you to play on a small stage, and then it allowed you to grow by introducing you to a larger stage. Yeah. And those are, you know, from the perspective of the front man or the singer and the person who has to vocally engage with the crowd, those are two distinct skill sets. They're not the same. And you got to learn. And that's kind of, you know, it's kind of like throwing you into the deep end when you get on that main stage. It's not easy. It's not an easy transition, but you know,
did you get the chance to play there on the main stage?
You know, it allows bands who aren't, let's be honest, aren't going to have that kind of exposure typically to have that kind of exposure. And then it's like, to be honest with you, another aspect of it is it's like a summer camp for musicians.
Yeah.
You know, so playing at Ozzfest is like a summer camp.
You got the chance to play on the main stage that year.
Yeah, we played a couple of times on the main stage. Oh, we played on the main stage. I believe we played in Atlanta. We also played in, I think it was San Francisco. We got to play the main stage. We got to play, I think we might have played we played like 2 or 3 times we got to play on the main stage.
So if I remember correctly, you shared stage with Pantera and Black Sabbath that year? Maybe Slayer?
Well, that year Pantera wasn't on Ozzfest. That was the first year that Black Sabbath came back with Ozzy.
Right. Yeah.
So that year the lineup was, let me try to remember, it was on the main stage, it was System of a Down, Deftones, Primus, Slayer, Rob Zombie, Ozzy, and Black Sabbath. And on the second stage, the headliner was Fear Factory. It was Static X, Push Monkey, Head PE, Slipknot.
So you were in 99, not 98. Because Slipknot was in 99.
Then it was 99.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because Pantera was on Ozzfest in 2000. 98, 97, 98, and 2000. So yeah, 99 was the year that Pantera was in.
Yeah, no, we got to share the stage with Pantera in Mexico. We did we were on tour with Typo Negative, and one of the shows was we were both opening for Pantera in Mexico City.
Nice.
But we did not on Ozzfest.
So just to wrap up this Ozzfest experience, how crazy are the stories behind on backstage? Because, you know, I know, of course, the music, the shows are the most important part, but what can you share about the backstage experience of playing there? Because most people know that, you know, there are crazy stories, but they don't get to hear the stories.
I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of times it's just your standard stuff. Not really that. It's not all that interesting. It's just fun. I mean, you know, all the bands, you start making friendships with people. For instance, we had I made friendships with Head PE, with System of a Down. You know, I got to hang out and build you know, rapport with some of the guys from Deftones. You know, so it was really cool. Backstage, it was, you know, just it wasn't really like how do you say, like when you do a show in a venue and you have a typical backstage for yourself. It was more free form. It was more open because everybody has their tour bus. So most of the time, you know, it's either we're swinging from one tour bus to another and just hanging out, you know, just talking crap, you know, getting blitzed, drinking.
All right.
You know, there were a couple times. One of the times we got invited to Vinnie Paul when we played Dallas. We got invited, so it wasn't really backstage, but it was after party after Ozzfest. It was Vinnie Paul's birthday, and he invited all the bands to his strip club to celebrate his birthday.
Oh, the
And
clubhouse.
so that was pretty wild.
Yeah, the clubhouse.
You know,
Nice.
other things, I mean, probably unconventional stuff that people probably won't even think there. One of the things we had was they had I don't know who the hell brought it, but they had bought these like sumo suits. So these inflatable sumo suits, and we were just being dorks and freaking sumo wrestling in these things. It was really hilarious. You know, it's that kind of stuff. It was, you know, it was hanging out, like, you know, talking to the guys in Slipknot also, you know, would hang out and, you know, just listening to some of the stuff like Corey would listen to. It's funny, like, you know, the kind of singer that he is and some of the stuff he would listen to, which is weird because I would listen to that kind of stuff too, which is, it's completely something you wouldn't expect, but, you know,
like
it
what,
just
for
goes to show
example?
you, you know, huh?
Like what?
Oh, dude, like one of the things we would listen to is Sarah McLachlan, dude. It's like, it's just weird. It's like, but yeah, I mean, you know, you think like these dudes, like, you know, metal dudes and all that, you know, from singer to singer. I mean, I love good singers, you know what I'm saying? I listen to a lot of different stuff. I don't listen to just metal. I listen to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it
especially
shows
when I, you
your
know,
music.
like, you know, great singers. So it was awesome to discover, you know, another metal hardcore singer who liked, you know, unorthodox stuff for a metal singer.
All right. So let's talk about the musical influences of Puya, especially on the Fundamental album, you know, the first major label album. And I think you can say this about the first one, the independent releasing, which is called Puya, right? The really first one.
The independent album we did, we call it La Cadena because it has the chains in the front of it.
Yeah, like the hands like this.
I think it's just it's linked hand in hand. Each link is like a hand, like one hand with another. But yeah, I guess you can call it Puya.
Yeah,
I mean, the influence is there. The thing is, like, coming from Puerto Rico, in Puerto Rico we have such a diverse amount of music that is just permeates everywhere. You know, in Puerto Rico, you know, you got people, the same person will listen to reggae, that'll listen to salsa, will listen to metal, will listen to hip hop, you know, will listen to pop. So you get all these influences. We get all these different types of music that are quote unquote popular, you know, for lack of a better term. But in other words, that they permeate pretty noticeably. So it's, you know, you go, if you hang out with the crowds in Puerto Rico when we were growing up. I don't know, because I haven't lived in Puerto Rico in a very long time, but when we were growing up, back when I lived in Puerto Rico, you know, we would listen to Latin rock, blues, R&B, you know, freaking reggae, especially for me, because I come from a surf town. So, you know, reggae and rock and roll were pretty popular in my town. But overall, you know, Puerto Rico being an island and everything, it's very you know, we do listen to a lot of different stuff, and so that kind of stuff just rubs off on you musically. But the difference was in that first album that you mentioned, the Puya album, the Chains album, that album is got a lot. When we moved from Puerto Rico to Florida, we moved to the South Florida scene. And back then, you know, the South Florida scene was pretty big on like speed and death metal. So that really started to be more pronounced in our sound, you know, because we were in the circuit with a bunch of bands, and, you know, that kind of stuff just, you know, it was what we started to really get into. but then on Fundamental, you know, things changed a little bit. We went less heavy, and we were more, because at that point we had been away from Puerto Rico for a while. So, you know, that's hence where the song Oasis comes from. You start to miss the things from your culture that you have on a daily basis. So the more Latin side of our influences started to be more pronounced.
Yeah, definitely you can hear a lot of salsa, a lot of, you know, Latin percussion, Latin piano, right? But I was listening to this album, like I said, this last weekend, and I realized, man, this Fundamental album is really influenced. Maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me. Really influenced by Infectious Grooves. You know, the band the band that Robert Trujillo used to play, right? The Metallica bass
It's
player.
funny you mention him because, yeah, I mean, dude, like funk, dude, like a lot. I'm not, maybe not me, but the rest of the guys are really into like they were big into Fishbone. We were all, I myself included, was really into Infectious Grooves when that came out. And I say it's funny that you mentioned Robert Trujillo because one of the first people, I think one of the first stars you can say that I ever met was Robert Trujillo.
Really?
And it's funny because somehow he got a hold of our demo tape all the way in California. I mean, I don't know how he did, but he had heard of us, and we were in this rehearsal studio, and he was there, and like he came into our rehearsal room, and he's like, "Yo," it's like I was like, "Holy crap, dude!" And he invited us to his spot, like his house, you know, and we went to his house and we hung out. We got to, you know, really meet him, and we became real good friends. So it's funny you mentioned that because that just happens to be like when we went to LA, when we left from Florida, we went to LA. He was one of the first like musicians that I admired, or that we admired, that I got to meet, that we all got to meet, and it was just crazy.
So it went full circle,
yeah, it was pretty crazy. Yeah, definitely. Puya has a like, we really like funk and groove. I mean, that is something that all four members are really into. So yeah, I can definitely feel you with that Infectious Grooves reference.
And what about the first album by Mr. Bangle?
Mr. Bungle, that not so much. I don't like, I'm a huge Faith No More fan. I love Faith No More, and we actually got to play with Mr. Bungle, and I got to meet God, I can't believe I just forgot his name. Mike Patton. I got to meet Mike Patton one day because we did this tour, Snowcore, and it was headliners were Incubus and System of a Down, and then it was Mr. Bungle and us.
Right? 98.
That was probably in 99 also.
All right.
And but yeah, I think more Faith No More-ish than Mr. Bungle, because Mr. Bungle is really like, Mike went really experimental with the Mr. Bungle you know, project. So but I definitely, I mean, I can't deny that I am influenced by him. I mean, you know, Faith No More's We Care a Lot, and like all their I mean, the Faith No More, the first album Mike Patton did with Faith No More, like I burnt the crap out of that album. I literally had jeans that, like, you know, back in those days you had torn jeans, and I drew the Faith No More, the album logo on my pants. It was, you know, I was a pretty big fanboy of Faith No More.
The real thing you meant.
Yep.
First album with Mike Patton. Yeah, great artist for sure. So on the next album, Union or Unión, I'm not sure. Unión, right? In the Spanish version of the word. I noticed that the band kind of moved away from the Latin influences. You don't hear as much salsa as the previous one, Fundamental. and the band sound got much heavier, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you were trying to blend in with bands like Il Nino, Soulfly, that were really big at that time when it was released, 2001.
Well, you have to keep in mind that the bands we were touring with were all like, Slipknot, we toured with Soulfly. We got to we were touring with a lot of bands, and it seemed like a lot of the tours we were doing. So, I mean, that starts to permeate in your music, whether kind of, unconsciously, it just happens. And we wanted to be heavier. Not so much to blend in, just because we really enjoyed the heavier aspect of it. That's like, remember when I was saying earlier that there's a reason why Fundamental is so Latin pronounced. It's because at that point in our lives, we had now, you're talking about, and not myself, but the other members of the group, they lived all their lives in Puerto Rico. And it's not until like 93-ish they leave, and then this album's in 98. So they've been living away from Puerto Rico for about, we had been living away from Puerto Rico for about 5 years. We really started to miss, that aspect of our lives. It's really different. It's really similar, living in Puerto Rico than it is to living here in the States, but it's also very different. And so, we really started to miss it. So that's why that phenomena happened, where the Latin side was more pronounced. But then when it comes down now, when we get back into Union, all the other guys except me moved back to Puerto Rico. So they were living in Puerto Rico. So I think that was why the phenomena, and the main writers of the band, the guys who typically bring the vast majority of the ideas to start composing with, are Ramon and Harold. So, not them being in Puerto Rico, I guess they were able to satisfy that yearning for the more Latin aspect. And so the heavier stuff started to be what kind of took the helm or the reins of the band at that point. Hence why Union is a heavier album.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a homesick, vice versa thing, right?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, you could say, like, Fundamental was written in a time where we were more homesick, and then Union was written in a time where we were no longer homesick, and we were just craving more aggressiveness.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So back to the new album. I think the former Il Nino percussionist is with you right now, Oscar Santiago, right?
Well, not to toot our horn, but he's actually our percussionist. Okay, not El Nino's. We were the one who found him. He's been our percussionist for a very long time. But while we've been inactive, he was with El Nino, and he was he was pretty stoically with them for quite a while. But yeah, Oscar is he's pretty much a standard in our band.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, great. So when is the new album coming out? Is there already a release date?
Hopefully late summer, early fall. That's what we're looking at. Like I said, I literally just got back from Puerto Rico last night at midnight. I finished doing the vocals. I finished up vocals for the songs on Saturday night around 10ish. So yeah, that it's got we still got to finish a few things. We got some more guitars to do, and we've got this new artist that we want to feature on one of the songs that we got to get her to do her part. And there's a few little things here and there that hopefully won't take us much longer, but our target date is sometime in August. Hopefully sometime August, no later than September.
Mm-hmm. Is there any touring plans for this year or maybe 2022?
Actually, right now we've got a mini tour in Central South Florida. It's coming up now at the end of June, and it's 3 shows. We've got one in Boynton Beach, So that's the South Florida, the East Coast. Then we've got Tampa. So we got West Coast there, and then it's Orlando. So it's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, June 24th, I believe. Don't quote me, but I know it's I think it's I'd say that's the week the week of the last weekend of the month.
Oh, all right. Hey man, off-topic question. Do you know somebody called Eduardo Paniagua?
The what?
Eduardo Paniagua.
What about him?
Do you know him?
Yeah, that's my drummer.
Oh, he's trying to get into the interview. His name
he's
is
my
like
drummer. He's a drummer.
All right, let's admit him for a few minutes. I was about to close the interview, but then it's Eduardo Paniagua. Hey, Eduardo. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, ahora, ¿me escuchan?
Sí, muy bien. How are
ya,
you, man?
brother, entre aquí las minutos, aquí, ya lo... ¿Cómo están las cosas?
Muy bien. Want me to speak in
right.
Spanish?
Como sea, English, Spanish.
Well, we were doing this interview in English, so better to continue in English.
Okay.
So,
You've been talking for a while? Okay.
Yeah, we were about to wrap up this interview, so
sorry.
It's okay. So
interview
what can
bomb.
Eduardo,
I showed up.
He's here. That's what counts. So Eduardo, what can you tell me or tell us about this new album? Our friend Sergio is kind of he doesn't want to talk too much about the new album.
That's not fair, but yeah.
Well, I think it'll be a big surprise for everybody because it's well, I mean, as far as the music goes, I think it's some, I feel that it's some of the strongest material we've ever put down on tape, and we feel very very good about it. It just came together rather easily. There was a good flow. Everybody, stepped up to the plate, and it came together. And I think. I can't tell you the truth. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. It's super badass. I love what we came with.
Would you say this album is more Latin influenced, or it's kind of like Union, a bit heavier album, or maybe something in the middle?
Well, I don't know. I think you're gonna have a taste of everything in this group of songs. There's some really heavy stuff. There's some, not so heavy stuff. It's like it's like us. You get a little bit of everything. We don't necessarily fit 100% in any specific genre. I mean, we play heavy, we play Latin, we play groove. Traditional Latin rhythms, and we use other elements besides drums. We have percussion and other sounds, that identify our sound. So we stay true to that, in this new recording, and I think it's gonna be awesome. There's some English material, Spanish material, all of it.
So in this new album, what's the name of the album, by the way, or is it a secret still?
Did Sergio not tell?
No, it's not. I mean, he didn't. It's called Potential.
Oh, all right.
The album's going to be called Potential. That the same as the first single.
Oh, okay. So Potential,
Potencial.
not Potencial. Potencial.
Bueno, it's Potencial. Yeah, Potencial.
So funny, because all those Fundamental and Union are the same in both languages, Spanish and English, right?
Correct.
Honestly, it is pure coincidence that it's worked out like that. But yeah, you noticed that, yeah. And
our live album from Puerto Rico is called Vital, which is vital.
Vital, yeah. Clever guys.
Honestly, we don't do it on purpose. It just happens
Really?
like that. It's
Right.
it's an unconscious thing, to be honest with you.
It's true.
But we'll take credit for being clever.
Any day, yeah.
Don't be that humble. Don't be that humble.
Yeah, I remember when I came up with that concept. Yes, I
remember. Me too, dude. I remember when you came up with that. Totally, man.
So in this new album, we're gonna be able to march, to headbang, to dance, everything at the same time, like we used to do with the previous albums.
I think this album, to me, the closest thing I can think of to it is varied as it is fundamental, right? But if you want to really get at it, it's probably more like, think of if Fundamental and Union were merged together, and that is what I think this album's really going to be. It's like, there's some really heavy aggressive stuff. There's some really straight up like Latin flavored rumba. But there's also, even in the stuff that's really Latin, there's some heavy stuff in there, you know, and we've got one song that's straight up just heavy. I don't even think there's any Latin part in it. And I think that's the one tune that's in English. But yeah, you're definitely going to be able to dance and mosh to this album.
Yeah, I remember back in the Oasis days, you know, back in 2000 or maybe 99, I was telling my friends about this Latin metal band Puya, and I was telling to them, hey man, you can hear thrash metal, salsa, and some alternative metal only in one song, only in 3 minutes. And they were like, what? Really? For real? But man, you should listen to it. That's amazing. So is there anything you guys want to add to wrap up this interview?
Well, I would like to definitely remind everybody that they can follow us on social media, Facebook, Puya Band, or if they're on Twitter Puya, or if they're on Instagram, Puya Official, or you can just go to our website, puyaonline.com. If you check out the store, there's some swag, t-shirts, hats, all that stuff is going on. And to learn about tour dates and things like that. We have some shows coming up in Florida in the month of June. We're gonna be in Tampa, Longview, and Pompano Beach. So anybody listening to this down there, go check it out. And yeah, be on the lookout for Puya this year, because we're coming strong.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sergio?
For me, first, I'd like to thank you guys for having us. We appreciate the opportunity, and also to, all the audience watching or listening to this. Thank you very much for your support. We truly appreciate it. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff that we love to do. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We love you for that. And I think to close it up, I'd say the same as Ed said, keep an eye out, man, because we're coming. We're definitely going to be really active. So, just again, stay on it. If you're interested at all seeing us live, just be patient and keep an eye out. Hopefully we'll be in your town soon.
All right. Yeah, sure. Let's hope for a South American tour sometime soon.
Well, yeah,
we're definitely going down to South America.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Can't wait. Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. It was my pleasure. Please make sure to share the interview when it's out. And best of luck to all of you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.